Welcome to the BachelorBasics.com Traveling Kitchen. In today's episode, we learn how to make ramen from Chef Braden with General Mills and Progresso.
Hi, I'm Michael Braden. I lead the culinary team for General Mills, and I'm here today with Progresso Stocks and show you some different things you can do with it. We're going to start with a pork and mushroom ramen. It's really easy to make. And a nice hot pan here, and I always want to start with a pan hot without the oil in it, because if you do, you're going to get a nice caramelization, and that's what we want. That's going to help us get some great flavor. So to that hot pan, I'm going to add just a little bit of oil. Make sure that it swirls around and crank up our heat just a little bit more. All right, to that hot oil, we're going to add just some chopped mushrooms here. You can use any kind of mushrooms. These are just regular button mushrooms. We're going to saute there briefly. We're starting to saute up a little bit. I'm going to add just some chopped green onions here. I'm going to saute those until the flavor just starts to come out a little bit. You can smell those. Smell that the mushrooms starting to caramelize a little bit, the green onions. Don't want to cook them too much because I don't want them to get wilty. Still want them to have a little bit of texture, a little bit of crunch to them. We're going to put a broth in there as well. Okay, that's about as far as I want to go with that. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add a little bit of minced ginger, probably about a half teaspoon or so. And then I'm going to just let that cook until we can start to really smell it. The flavor starts to come out of that. And then what I'm going to add here is I've got some soy sauce and some mirin. Or if you don't have mirin, a dry white wine will work. And we're going to let that just simmer until it reduces just a little bit. Really start to get a nice aroma from that ginger and those onions and the mushrooms.
So what are some techniques that you see, like a lot of starting chefs, that they really can improve in things at this dish? So definitely knife skills and some elements to cooking that this kind of highlights.
You know, that's a great question. Knife skills, I think, are number one. If you want to try, you can see all the vegetables are pretty much the same size there. So many people don't cut their vegetables uniformly, and so what happens when you start to cook that is you'll get some that are overcooked, some that are undercooked. So cutting the vegetables, whether you're making a ramen or a soup or a sauce, or even just chopping vegetables or cooking vegetables as a side dish, you want to cut them all the same size. The second thing I see most people do is they don't heat their pan enough before you put the oil in it. So many people will put the pan on the stove, turn it on, put the oil in, and then every time what happens is, instead of searing and getting a nice caramelization, what happens is the water starts to come out of the meat or the vegetables, and all of a sudden you're boiling ground beef or ground pork or vegetables rather than sauteing them, and so you're not going to develop flavor that way. So those are the two biggest things I see people: inconsistent sizes of the vegetables and not heating the pan hot enough dry.
Yeah.
So.
And then best way to get better at knife skills?
Best way to get better at knife skills is just practice. You know, I like to use a nice French knife. You always want to make sure it's nice and sharp because it's going to be easier to use and easier to cut. Real simple way to, you know, so many people want to hold it back here or put their finger up here. If you think about it like you'd grip a tennis racket, right, and just hold it like that, and then you've got nice control over the knife when you cut. So I mean, it's just, you know, it's real simple. I've got nice control. The knife's not gonna waver at all like that. So practice and keep your fingers out of the way. Okay, our mirin, you can smell it. It's really got a nice aroma now going. We're going to hit it with the Progresso unsalted cooking stock now. So I'm just going to pour that right in there like so. We're going to keep it on high heat too, because we want it to come up to a boil, because we're going to cook our ramen noodles in there next. And that's about a quart of the stock there. So we still got it on high heat. Let's give it a stir in case we got any ginger that was left in the bottom. And we'll let that come up to a boil, and then we're going to put our noodles in there. And these are just packaged ramen noodles that we've taken and discarded the seasoning packet, because we don't want one of those. Those are super high in sodium and salt, and we don't want to really use that. But almost to a boil, so we're just going to throw that in there. We're going to let it sit, and it'll start to break up. These really only take about 3 minutes to cook. And as soon as that starts to break up, then I'm going to add my pork, and we'll finish it off here. Well, ramen's super hot. Ramen restaurants and ramen popping up on menus everywhere. And we wanted to make something, I think, that was easy for people to kind of get into the ramen, with just some ground pork and no super fancy ingredients, as kind of just a base recipe for ramen. Very simple, kind of traditional. What I like about it though is you can use anything. So I know you tailgate and like to think about things like that. You know, I was thinking, oh, what would be great is taking the leftovers off of maybe a pork shoulder that you roasted or smoked on the smoker, or ribs that you had left over. You could use a Progresso chicken stock in that and season it really just with whatever is in your pantry. And so I think ramen's really you know, kind of the utilitarian dish in the kitchen, is that you can use up all the leftovers and just put a lot of cool stuff in, throw some noodles in. It's hearty, it's perfect for the fall. So that was really the inspiration behind it, and kind of jumping on the trend. So those are just starting to break up a little bit. They're starting to cook a little bit. We're going to add some of our pre-cooked ground pork to this now.
And then when pre-cooking, to walk people through who may not know how to just brown up meat.
Yeah, so the most important thing is put your pan on the stove and heat it up dry with no oil in it. So we want to heat it up, get it really, really hot, so when you put your oil in it, it's almost to the smoking point, and then add your meat and let it cook that way. That way you're going to get a good brown on it, good caramelization. It's not going to stick to the pan. You're not going to draw the water out of it, but it'll still be, it'll get nice and brown, and brown equals flavor. So we want to get that good caramelization. So we'll let that just simmer for a couple minutes, and then we'll dish it up and garnish it and give it a try. All right, our noodles are finished, so we're ready to dish this up. So I'm going to turn it off. Move our pork out of the way here. And we've got our serving bowl. Take it and clean off our bowl. A nice clean dish. And we're going to garnish it up. And so I've got a few more just fresh green onions we'll throw on top of there. Like so. These are some julienned radishes. Basically what I did is I just sliced them and then julienned them nice and fine. So we're going to throw some of that right on top, like such. Lime, maybe squeeze a lime over it, like that. Put another one on the side. I've got some egg here, some hard-boiled egg I'll throw on there. And then I'm going to throw some of this chili sauce. And I'll just drizzle some of that, nice thick chili sauce, right around like such. And there it is. That's ramen with pork and mushrooms and the Progresso chicken stock.